Welcome once again to our St. Andrew High School alumni series of interviews. And with us today is Marjorie Whylie, well-known musician, performer, actor, writer, pianist, folklorist. Oh, Marjorie, we're so thrilled to be with you today in your home. And thank you so much for welcoming us.
It's my pleasure.
Well, we're going to start off with those good old days when you first entered St. Andrew High School. I'm sure you have some memories there of boarding life and also friends you had. So let's hear a little bit about those early days.
Well, I started as a day girl for about half of the first term of the year, and then a space became available and I was placed in little dormitory, right, where we had just 4 of us. It was Gracie Johnson, Mary White, Clarke, Beth Harry and myself. And I had gotten the Jamaica Government Code Scholarship. I came first in the island, and so this scholarship provided for boarding and all of that sort of thing. I was totally devastated when the space was found, because I had never been away from home, and I was all of 9.
Gosh.
But after weeping bitterly night after night, of course you couldn't show the tears to anybody else, so when I went to bed I would weep myself to sleep. And then gradually I started having fun as I got to know the other girls, none of whom were in my class. I was a form ahead of the others, and I think Gracie was the baby, and she would have been in the prep school at that time. But we started having fun. We would tiptoe out of the dormitory and down the back steps, because in those days doors were not locked and that sort of thing, so you would rush out onto the rounders field or the tennis court and pick up a mango here and there and that kind of thing. But you had to, I think it was the 7th step from the top of the stairs, and there was one lower down, we had worked it out, that would squeak. And so I had to be very careful, because the matron and the school nurse lived just across the corridor from us. So I had to be very careful. Anyhow, along one wall of little dormitory was the linen cupboard, where all the sheets and so on were kept. And one night we were, after lights out, we were playing hide and seek. Well, Mary each one of us had a cupboard in line, and there was a curtain in front of the cupboard, and the lower section was where we kept shoes and so on. Well, Mary forced herself into that space. I can't remember if it was Beth or Grace that got into the laundry basket. And no, it was I got into it was me, I got into the laundry basket, and somebody climbed up each shelf with the linen closet and got on the top, and so on. Well, Miss Gartshaw had 2 rooms. She had a room in the main building where we were, where the office and so on was. And she also had a room over in Cecilia Lodge, which then became a part of the prep school. First of all, they used to have 6 forms over there, and then it became a part of the junior school.
And Miss Gartshaw was the principal at the time?
Miss Gartshaw was the principal at the time, better known as Pommy, because she would wear these shoes with square heels, maybe right, about an inch and a half high, yes, and it would come along, pom, as she was walking, so she was known as Pommy. And whenever you were carrying on anywhere and you heard that, everything became very silent and so on. So the shoes gave her away all the time.
So you said that
She
you
was
were hiding
coming,
now.
she came up the steps, but
Yes.
of course we're to the back and side of the building, so we didn't hear her coming, and we're there having a ball playing hide and seek, and she then opened the door and we were not in bed. So it was quite a kerfuffle, and she found us all one by one. Marjorie Whylie, will you please get out of the a fastener couldn't come out. I could not get out. And then she finally found, I think it was Grace, at the top of the linen closet, looking at the footprints, the dirty footprints that had been made on the white sheets, because all sheets were white in those days, on the white sheets going all the way up to the top. Lord have mercy, were we ever punished? In those days, punishment would be you'd have to sit on the side veranda for some time, and you'd have to write lines. After lights out, one should be in bed, kind of thing, that kind of thing, and so on. So, but it became fun.
Yes.
And then.
So you were quite mischievous even from those days.
But you had to be. It was awfully boring. You know, how was one expected to be, you know, sit quietly, don't move? I mean, we were creative children, you know, so it was awfully boring to be under that kind of regimen, that discipline.
And you were only 9.
I was 9, you know, and so on. And then we did all kinds of things. One thing the school did for me is that it developed my creativity even more, and I was a very creative child.
How did it do that?
First of all, when I was in those days, the high school used to start what would have been a form before what is now grade 7? Or it used to be first form, right? In those days it was called third form, because in the prep school you had form 1 and form 2, and then in the high school form 3. So we were younger than everybody else. And our form teacher at the time was the late Tess Thomas, an absolutely splendid woman. She taught us nature study, and she taught us English, and we also got involved in creating. She had us for a few weeks writing a play, and it was called School, and we it was just describing all of the things that you did in school and so on, and we came up with all kinds of funny names for people and so on. So that, and then we put it on. Right. It was done in the hall. We performed for the whole school and that kind of thing. It was always encouraging the creativity. There was the Gartshore Cup competitions. And well, I know I used to make pickles and cookies, orange cookies, and you'd use a fork to do a cross in it, and in the center of the cross you put a raisin, and so on. I also used to paint. I was very much into drawing and painting, and I would make paper dolls. So you would make the paper dolls and then design the fashions and cut them out and present it. You know, it would be put on board and presented, and it would be up in the hall or in the art room, that kind of thing. The art classes were taught by Mrs. Burroughs.
That's right.
And she gave us all kinds of interesting things to do, and as you moved up in the school, then you got to doing
Royal Society of Arts,
like abstract things from time to time. Or you would do plant studies and so on. I was pretty good at that which meant that the diagrams and the different examples that you put together when we were doing biology, that helped me to get good marks in biology. But I was never really interested in the sciences. That was my sister, Marina, who had been at school. She left school in December and I went to school in the January, which was just as well, because she was an absolute saint. When other children would stay away from school when it was raining and so on, oh no, she made sure that she got my father. She would ride a bicycle to school. On a rainy day, she got my father to take her to school because she got more attention. But I never wanted more attention. You know, you don't really want too much attention from the teachers. I did the work that had to be done and so on, and did well in school.
Good. So
But,
we're going to pause for a minute and then go on to the next stage.